A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back once again to HJN Super Graphics. So I'd like to extend my overall take on the new Destroy All Humans games by talking about the sequel to Destroy All Humans known as Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. And right off the bat, I feel like that something is off here. Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed simply has the subtitle Reprobed, implying that this is in fact a reboot or remake of the original Destroy All Humans 2, which came out all the way back in 2006 for the PS2. And keep in mind, this was when THQ was originally THQ and not THQ Nordic as it's known by nowadays, as we've seen with a lot of games in recent years. And on top of all that, while the developer is also different here, it's still fair to say that the subtitle Reprobed is more of the implication of the fact that it's a remake and not exactly borrowing the original title itself and not adding or removing anything else. So this sort of brings me to the point of, why wasn't the first Destroy All Humans reboot called Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, while we have the original simply titled as Destroy All Humans? No Reprobed. I mean, Destroy All Humans 2020 was pretty much what I referred to it when I talked about it yesterday. But now that we have Destroy All Humans 2 2023, instead it's called Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. So why wouldn't they call the other one Destroy All Humans Reprobed to offer distinction between it and the original, which at that time came out 15 years prior in 2005? And the sequel came out only a year later, following the original in 2006. But in this instance, they took a bit of time in between both installments. Anyways though, now that that part's out of the way and out of my system, we might as well talk a bit more about the game itself. Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, even though I said it was a 2023 game, it actually was released in summer of 2022 for the PS5 and Xbox Scarlet. However, the version that I got, knowing that I still had a PS4 and not a PS5 yet, as I only bought one a year later in summer of 2024. And keep in mind, PS5 Slims were in great deals by that point because the release of the PS5 Pro was underway, and by the end of 2024, it came out. And while I could have instead bought a PS5 Pro likely at a good deal, just like I got a hold of my actual PS5, which was a Slim, the thing is, I bought mine at a local Best Buy for only $400. A nice big paycheck I got from my overall work. In any case though, 2023 was when they released a version for the PS4 and Xbox One, so that way if anybody was hoping to get a hold of a copy of Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed for themselves, even though they couldn't get a hold of a PS5 or Xbox Scarlet for any reason, it's still fair to say I consider this to be a 2023 game, in spite of the fact that the first time it came out was a year prior. Well, in any case though, Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed is not only a remake of the original Destroy All Humans 2, which came out back in 2006, but the first reboot or reprobed version of Destroy All Humans, which came out in 2020, the second game, Reprobed, of course, gives us a nice first-hand look at what happened a decade after the events of the first game. You see, in the year 1969, this was when the countercultural stuff was in full swing, especially at the height of the Vietnam War. Yeah, it was that time period in general. Not a lot of people liked it, and not a lot of people want to remember it. But Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed at least gave us a good reason to reminisce of those old days where things were not so great with society. In any case though, Cryptosporidium 137, the same comedic Southern accent alien that we remember from the first game, is back at it once again under orders from his superior known as Orthopox 13. However, things are a bit different here. In the second game, the mothership is apparently taken down, and Orthopox 13 supposedly dies in the crash. However, the holopod that Crypto carries around with him still shows that Orthopox is somehow alive. But really, he's actually dead. I could probably speculate that maybe Orthopox is reserved as some sort of AI in a way, or at least a holographic version of himself, relaying messages out to Crypto. But I don't know, it's just one of those confusing details that seems to bug me every which way, and I do try to ignore it as much as possible. But anyways though, the first level of the game, as it takes place, is in a certain township where we need to find a character known as Coyote Bongwater. He apparently holds a certain secret in mind, that of which will help Cryptosporidium 137 navigate his way through in order to eventually come across certain military bases. And well, I will say that in comparison to what we have here, the likes of Bay City is a pretty unique way to start things off here. The abilities from the first game are recycled in Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. You have the same controls, the same fluid motions, the usage of a jetpack to fly up into the air, to get up on top of certain places. You can enter your saucer and take control of its weapons, and there's also a good variety of weapons in here just the same. Though I will say that Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed actually does give out way more weapons to use, as well as more abilities to take place. The thing is that there's a lot of new weapons, abilities, stats, and even newer vehicles. So, not just with the saucer, but there's also other things that you can take advantage of as well throughout the whole course of the game. And the thing is that we will, in fact, imply really quickly that the comedy and sexual innuendos are still in full swing, and the weapon selection from the Zap-O-Matic and the Anal Probe to newer weapons. I mean, that alone is a pretty unique feat. But it also does add on to the fact that you do need to have a hold of specific types of ammo for them. It seems kind of odd. Why couldn't the human DNA double as ammunition? Why couldn't it double as, well, certain other things? Well, the DNA that you collect from harvesting human DNA is in fact made as the generalized currency for upgrading certain abilities as well as stats in particular. And while there are certain other things that you can use upgrades for, there are other things that you would have to collect in order to make them possible. Obviously, we know that the ammo is one big thing out there, because how else are you supposed to get such weapons up and running? I mean, giant lasers, ray guns, and certain other things that you'd have to use to your own advantage here. Of course, we certainly can't forget the fact that it's not just the locations that you visit from Base City to the Solaris base, but of course, it's important to note there is actually a co-op version of the game itself, a 2-player split screen option that you can pick out as well. However, for the plot itself, upon finding Coyote Bongwater, you're at least given access to a certain base. This base in particular does hold some secrets that you can hold to your own advantage. And as for the main villains in this case, they sure are pretty nifty and well equipped for anything. As you navigate through 5 different locations, not just with Base City, but there's also Albion, Tokyo, as well as the likes of Tunguska and the Solaris Moon Base. So 5 locations in total that you have to visit, with a variety of different missions, side quests, and even challenges. Yeah, challenges in particular that you can actually use as a means to get a hold of some extra DNA and ammo and other such pickups. Yeah, mostly as a means of time killing, pretty much. Otherwise, this is the same old stuff that we've seen from the other game, and arguably, because of the larger variety, higher selection, and lots more locale visitations, lots of characters to interact, lots of missions to complete, lots of places to go. So yeah, in my overall playthrough here, it's an impressive feature in comparison to the other game. This game has way more flexibility to it, much larger world expansions, exploration tactics, as well as a unique series of variables, from the ammo to the statistics that you get to put together. There's even costumes not just for yourself, but also for the saucer. And I will say that in my whole entire playthrough of the game, up until the very point where it's yet another one of those cases where I got so stumped that I just called it quits. I will say that for both Crypto as well as his saucer, I've equipped a lot of skins in both cases. So there was never a shortage of making things look and feel new to the touch, as well as the eye. I mean, especially for the saucer, it's total eye candy. The attention to detail alone, not just for the costumes, but for everything else in this game compared to the other one, was so superb. I mean, 2023 must have been the greatest year for gaming ever. And I've talked so much about 2023 games. Such contenders out there. Dredge, Disney Speedstorm, and then of course there's the Crew Motorfest, just to name a few. But Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, even though it was technically released the year prior, it was 2023 that the PS4 version came out. It was around that point that I got a hold of the game itself, and moreover, it was around that point as well where I was more than excited of the fact that I got to play it. So, there you pretty much have it. For my overall scoring of Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, it certainly does give us a nice feel compared to what the other game gave us. Well, Destroy All Humans 1 from 2020, the Reprobed version, I might as well just call it Destroy All Humans Reprobed, just so it's not as confusing to me. I will say that it was well worth a good 7.5 out of 10.1, but as for the sequel here, we'll just go ahead and bump it up to 8.5 out of 10.1. There's just a lot to work with here, and a lot to give your money's worth. So, that pretty much conclusifies my talk of the original Destroy All Humans duology that was first made possible by the likes of THQ and Pandemic, but as of today, with the newest developers and publisher THQ Nordic in mind, it's fair to say they did a really good job handling the reboots. But who knows? Could we have another Destroy All Humans game on the mind? Maybe we'll have to worry about that in the future. For now though, I'll see you guys tomorrow with more HJN Super Graphics material, and I do hope that the next contender will be just as worth talking about as with this duology.